Good afternoon and good morning. Good day wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of SalesTV Live, the North American edition. SalesTV Live is meant to be an interactive experience. Please add your questions, your answers, and your insights in the comments, and we'll try to get as many on screen as possible. On today's panel, we have Alex, Andy, and myself. And we're joined by Bob Britton, the CEO and founder of Sales Enablement Sherpas. Bob, welcome.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got here.
I thought that was directed at Bob. Is it directed at
It was.
Bob?
What? Bob, please tell us a little bit more about
keep up
yourself.
with the script. You're the main man here.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear from us, really.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is I'm hearing three different.
Are you trying to watch the stream while?
No. I hear three. Each one of you talks.
Oh.
Okay. So that could be interesting. So when I speak, can you then hear me echo 3 times?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
Maybe you want to drop out and come back in, see if it fixes the problem.
I may need to do that. Folks, if you don't mind, can I try it?
Yeah,
Go for it.
Go for it.
We'll just
Hey,
speak
this is
really
live
badly
TV.
about
We
you.
can do whatever we want.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll fill in with some bad jokes.
We have plenty of those. Well, mostly just the punchlines.
Okay. I think I fixed it.
Oh,
Oh.
excellent. All
Okay,
right.
we're there now. Okay. Just
Great. So let's try that again.
No, you're not. It's not work. Sorry, Bob. Couldn't resist that. We'll set the tone, we'll set the bar really low so you can exceed it.
It's only up from here. Oh, so Bob, welcome.
Thank you. Let's start.
Please tell us a little bit more about you and how you got here.
Okay. Bob Britton. I call myself the Sales Enablement Sherpa. I've been in sales, how old am I now? 59 and a half. So I've been in sales for 59 and a half years. I always say that we're come out of the womb selling. So we usually do. So what I do really is I help organizations take a look at the frictions that are actually occurring inside of their sales organizations and the system in which the sales organization is sitting, so that they can accelerate their attainment of their revenue. That's what I do. Sales enablement itself is, the definition of it is the identification and mitigation of frictions that are impeding top line revenue attainment. So that's really what sales enablement is all about. That's a pretty broad, pretty broad description of it, but that's what it is. It's very strategic.
That's a definition of it for sure. I know you and myself have both been part of the Sales Enablement Society since its inception. And one of the running gags at this point is, how do we define sales enablement? And I say running gag because that came up at every single meeting. Whether it was a local chapter or a national meeting or whatever. And I finally came down to realize that if you ask 100 sales enablement professionals how to define sales enablement, you'll get 120 different definitions.
Mm-hmm.
We finally, as a society, came up with a definition that is so dense and so verbose that I don't even know what it is. So, yes, Andy.
Can I pull a pin and lob a hand grenade in here at this particular point?
Please do.
Sure.
It's not the political hand grenade we were talking about in the green room. I have a real problem with sales enablement, and we've talked about this. There's people enablement and there's the number enablement, and I think everyone is confused about it. So
well, we're off to a great start, aren't we?
If I want to enable Alex, it's about making him and supporting him to have better knowledge and skills and behaviors, and that is not process, pricing, and platforms that a company uses. And we have got very confused about that. And I believe most sales enablement people are hired by a company to revenue enable the company, not improve the individual. And when I look about that, I want to make Alex, if I'm going to employ someone for 2 and a bit years, I want to send that individual out a better, improved, more marketable person, more having greater brand, personal brand, than when they hired me. And I think we've lost that complete mission. And
I would agree. That's why. Well, let me explain to you kind of why it is that this is happening. Sales enablement as a profession has really been around since, let's call it 2010 or so, give or take a little bit. But what happened was about the mid 2015, 2016 or so, the sales training industry kind of glommed on to the title of sales enablement. And that's when things really started to go wonky. So they sort of misappropriated that term because sales training is not sales enablement. It's a part of sales enablement, but it is not sales enablement. And what happened was the C-suites became as disenchanted about their sales enablement functions as they were about their sales training functions, because they were the same now as far as they were concerned. So if you notice, Gartner and Forrester both came up with this term called revenue enablement. So what they're trying to do is they're really trying to, once again, bring the more strategic aspects of sales enablement back into the scene here. It's just because of the nature of it. It went from being very strategic to tactical, and now we're trying to get it back to strategic. And I don't blame you, Andy, for being a little bit confused about the whole thing. But in terms of what we're trying to do here, if you take a look at like Deming, okay, Edwards Deming, he says you put a good person into a bad system, the bad system is going to win every time. Okay,
completely
agree. And that is exactly what's happening right now. There's an awful lot of focus on the individual, but any gains that you get there are short-lived because we're not at the same time trying to fix the system that those individuals are living within. And there's an entire ecosphere that actually interacts with the sales organization that really does, the random acts of enablement tend to really screw things up as compared to a more coordinated approach to enablement.
And I love that, Rob and Bob. We talked about. Okay, sorry. And I do love it because so I lived in 2 big American organizations, GE and Sun Microsystems, and you talk about frictions. And the moment you said that, I did seriously want to come out with a gag. But this is a serious point because I felt between 2 big organizations, I was the oil in the San Andreas fault. And I love what you said there, and I truly do. But what I'd love to see is, okay, stop putting the sales individual in the organizational problem. Fix your organizational problems, and then enhance and help the individual enhance their own personal brand. And we seem to have this washing machine effect of, well, actually, we'll lob it all in there and see what comes out. And the reason we talk about this, we've talked about this in a couple of episodes, is you pick any 2 organizations, Bob, and I'd love your opinion on this. And fundamentally, both of them have got a corporate brand. But when the salespeople pitch up from each organization to the same customer, it's not the corporate brand that wins through, it's the personal brand of the individual that wins through. But very, very, very little is done to understand the professionalism of the personal brand of the individual. And what I'd like to get is your understanding of how do we kind of separate the 2 streams and let's sort the corporate problem out, and let's help the individual enhance their own brand. And if they don't want to enhance their own brand, well, they probably don't want to be in the corporate brand. They need to be somewhere else. So how the hell do you do that?
First of all, you have to make sure that they have an understanding that they're pretty much the closest thing in the company that they're going to come to as far as an individual contractor, an independent contractor. So sellers really, if you think about it, are the most independent people in the company. Once they start talking to a customer, all bets are off. They are doing their own thing. They're also the boundary function between the company and the rest of the world. Yep. So what ends up happening is a seller will get in there and they'll start to talk, but they haven't done all the homework. They haven't been guided as to what it takes to present yourself professionally. A lot of the times, really, let's face it, when you're talking to a customer, it's not about your company anyway. When you're first talking to them, it's about them. It's about the people you're talking to. So, what you have as a brand should be, my brand is to focus on you, the customer. That is what I do. The fact that we have a product here that can probably fix what it is that you have a problem with is secondary to the fact that you have a problem. So let's really diagnose this, make sure you understand your problem well, and what is a solution that will actually work for you. One of the things that I do, Andy, is I help them understand. I'll paint a picture for them. Picture your organization, I'm talking to a customer, as a boat on a river. And that river is infested with alligators or crocodiles, whatever you want to use. But let's use an alligator. And they have an alligator climbing in over the transom right now. What that customer cares about is getting a gun and some ammunition in order to kill that alligator. Everything else is off the table, and they can make that happen. So the first thing that a seller has to be able to do is figure out what gun and ammunition that they need in order to kill that alligator. And that's where most sellers stop. What they forget to do then is say, okay, here's your gun, here's your ammo, who's your navigator? Because I want to get this boat away from the rest of those alligators that are also in the river. So what you need to do is you need to take that extra step and start to bring value to them. There's two types of value. There's the point in time value, and then there's the more temporal value where it's more in the future. And that's really where you can gain a lot of trust, a lot of respectability with them when you start to have those types of conversations with them. Mr. Navigator, where is it that you actually want to take your company? And then you can bring to the forefront the fact that they don't want to go over this fork in the river because there's a waterfall over there. Over here, there's some great fishing. It's calmer waters, and it's exactly the kind of fish that you're looking for. And now let's talk about lures and things that you can use in order to catch those fish. So that's the type of thing that we need to get to when it comes to sales. But the brand of the seller that's trying to do it, the brand of the seller is almost irrelevant at first. It becomes relevant as they start to develop that trust and respectability, because the brand needs to be about the customer, not necessarily the seller.
So I agree up to a point. I believe in the world of the digital modern salesperson trying to be there. I believe the brand, particularly in consumer bias, of the salesperson is more important up front now than it ever was. Mm-hmm. So every organization on the planet trusts its seller to hit a number. Every buyer on the planet knows that the seller's interaction is to do something to hit that number. But to your point, what you're saying is actually you uncovered the alligator-infested water, and you said, actually, if you've engaged me to do problem solving A, but problem B actually is a bigger one, which is how do you actually get out of all of this and go somewhere else? Mm-hmm. Which is, I agree with completely and violently. But the problem is that no one believes that if you're a buyer, because what they look at is, I know you're here to sell me something. And actually, if I was to project, I'm not here. I'm here as Simon Sinek says this. We haven't said it on the North America. Mm. Sales is like dating. And you don't know in a modern world where you find dates on site. And by the way, I've been happily married for 25 years, just in case this goes viral. I don't do dating sites. However, that's the point. You look for those markers of trust and everything. And I do believe now the time is for sales enablement functions to go, how do I enhance the personal brand of those that want their personal brand to be enhanced to do that?
I just want to add, Samantha Williams adds to this as well. Problem analysis isn't a skill set that is ascribed to salespeople. And that's something that we were touching on a little bit as well. So I just wanted to add that to the mix as we're talking about this.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And the other thing is, it's great
I'll go you one better, Andy. it's that we're now at a point where since salespeople are coming in later and later into a sales cycle, and the latest numbers that are out there are that, what is it, 75%, I think, is what's actually been printed, of people would rather not have a seller involved in the buying process at all. And actually, I've heard verbally that number is going up to about 83%. So we're at a point where it's becoming less about sellers and more about marketing. So you take a seller out of the mix, and it's a marketing. You're doing revenue generation by marketing. So really, the first time that a seller is going to get involved is going to be 70%, 80% of the way through, and that's only in a portion of them, because we're moving toward, since you mentioned digitization, we're also moving toward commoditization. So we're moving toward things being in a marketplace where sellers are not involved at all, where people simply find something that they need online. It's the buy from Amazon or buy from Dell type of paradigm that we're moving toward. So,
but that's
what does
fascinating.
that do for us?
I think that is a number that we love, but we don't look at the number behind it. And the number behind it is 52% of transactions end up in no transaction. They end up in the status quo. So the issue is, you're right, people hold salespeople out, but over 50% of the time they look for a solution to their own described problem, it ends up in the status quo. Go back 30 years, and I know we're playing tennis over the same equal side, so it's almost, but go back 30 years, that wasn't a problem. They'd welcome you and I in and go, you know what, Andy, I think I've got an issue. Where do you think my issue is? And there was this whole piece. It's the distrust that corporations, and we found it out this morning by accident on the EMEA episode, is that actually corporations don't trust their own salespeople enough, which is back round to the things that you and I were talking right at the start of this. So why the hell do we expect buyers to trust us? And here's the really interesting point about this, and I put it out on LinkedIn. A buyer in company A works with a seller in company B, and we think that the trust issue is there. But actually, is the trust issue the fact that a buyer in company A doesn't work in an environment where his own organization trusts their own sales force? So he pitches up and goes, every seller that comes across my pitch, we don't trust our own salespeople. They don't hang around long enough. So why would I trust anyone in my supply chain? And actually, here's the bit in Sales TV, which I'm really interested in, is that why don't we embrace our salespeople as the most fundamental, as you said, the boundary spanners, and love them more, give them personal branding more, help them be more brilliant, and don't say it's about the number. The number is clearly important, but the number comes as a consequence of lots of other stuff, but we just treat everybody as a number carrier.
Yeah, so numbers, I always say that numbers are a barometer of how everything else is going. And they're the laggingest indicator that you have. So there's an awful lot of stuff that goes into that number, and you really have to focus on the leading behaviors before you get to the lagging indicators. So the interesting thing here is that when it comes to the branding, because salespeople have a bad reputation in the first place. When we come into it, we already have 2 strikes against us, to use American baseball terminology. We have 2 strikes against us coming into the game. And the first thing is it's going to be a confrontation between the seller and the buyer. That's just a given almost every single time that we come into the field. Yes, I agree that maybe we ought to be called ambassadors instead of salesmen, right? That would certainly help our reputation a little bit if we called ourselves something other than a salesman.
Not if everyone did it, though.
True. If everyone's doing it, then nobody's doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, the issue is that how do we improve the way that we behave with them so they want to work with us? Seasoned sellers, we understand that it takes that relationship building, and it takes a lot of listening in order to make that happen. But you don't necessarily start in sales that way. You start in sales trying to learn. You start in sales trying to show how smart you are. You start in sales with a lot of IQ. And that's typically what's happening when sellers are selling. They're selling like just straight left brain data, and that's what they're giving. What they're not doing is they're not blending in EQ and the right side of the brain. We all know the adage that sales or buying is an emotional act, and to sign your name on the bottom line is emotional and is supported by all the facts that you have. The problem is that when we come in, Andy, as sellers and do nothing but talk about how smart we are, how great our product is, and how what we're doing is just simply providing more data to them, you immediately start with the confirmation bias. All the customer is doing is listening to you and saying, I either agree with you, I'll give you a little more time, or I disagree with you, and they completely shut you off because there's no emotional appeal there whatsoever. So from a branding perspective, what we need to do, and this coming back to the whole ambassador thing, is we need to really understand what it means to build EQ into the messaging. When's the last time that you ever take a look at, for example, some of the case studies in major organizations? They read like, here's our product, here's what we did for the solution, and here's how much money we actually were able to save you or help you attain.
But
that's what they're. Go ahead.
Two things, Bob. I agree. So, but back to your marketing thing. If you were to take 6 companies in the same industry and took out specific words that might be for their product, most of the marketing messages today are the same. So actually, whilst people will go onto the websites and the people will go onto the World Wide Web and look for this data and everything else, it's not helping either because they're all pretty much the same.
They are. Matter of fact, the stat I saw was that 64% of people cannot differentiate one vendor from another based upon their online footprint.
So you add that brilliantly. I love this. It's like Wimbledon, isn't it? It's like McEnroe versus Paul. Hey, we're off.
Shall I step in here?
Yeah, you
please.
Shall I step in here because
Adam Fayer said you have an opinion, so you better have an opinion right now, mate, because he set you up. If you fail, Adam's going to be disappointed.
Yeah, Adam.
No pressure.
Hello, mate. Good to see you pop up here. No, I think you're sort of set. I think you're trying to set it up, Andy and Bob. It sounds like you've got a kind of a clear view on the kind of the role of sales and the role of marketing. And to add to some of the stats, website, vendor websites are no longer trusted like they used to be by buyers, according to Trust Radius. Vendor blogs and articles that are written and white papers that were once the carrot, to grab the lead, are no longer trusted in the way that they used to be. And buyers are turning to communities and their friends and their colleagues to get advice on, who they should talk to about solving their problem. And so I do think that marketing as a function, B2B marketing as a function, doesn't work like it used to. This traditional funnel is getting narrower and narrower, no matter how cleverer marketers become. And so I think the pendulum shifts towards the seller, and not just the seller, but others within an organization, to build those relationships, to activate their networks on social media and digitally, to develop their personal brands, as Andy was talking about, in order to attract those buyers, the target audience, towards the brand.
The problem is they don't get the at-bats to do that. So you have to interact with them in order to be able to do that, right? Coming back to the messaging aspect of it, though, and the funnel, product puts out an idea of what it is that their concept of what the market wants. Marketing then grabs what product says and says, okay, let's see if we can't fine tune it for a vertical and a sub vertical, and then they bring it down to the level of persona. they start selling. Marketing is really geared towards selling to things like, the CEO of this, the director of that. That's really where the messaging is actually geared when it comes to marketing. And when sales gets a hold of it, that's when they start to personalize it down to the individual. So that funnel is where the seller itself is taking that messaging and making it personal, right to the person. The problem is that as sellers are removed, the onus of personalizing that message is now shifting over to marketing. Marketing doesn't know how to do that. Not well, anyway. Or most of them don't. I shouldn't say broad terms, but most marketers do not understand what it means to sell. So the problem is, how are they going to make something personal, a message personal, without ever knowing who the person is on the other side?
Yeah.
Think what was going to happen here. What's going to wind up happening here, Alex, is it's going to drive the cost of customer acquisition through the roof, because now they're going to have to go and look at some company that's aggregating this person's individual online footprint to try and build what this person might be like online,
and that's
rather than actually talking with a person.
Yeah, but that's okay then, because no, it's not. That's not a problem, because AI is on the way. It's going to save us all. That's figured out.
I, for one, look forward to the day that the AI robots take over, and I look forward to serving them.
We're all fantasizing about a world where humans exist. Nobody exists anymore apart from the data people who build AI, and then the rest of the world just deals in that. It'd be like 3 people on the planet.
The difference between sales and marketing, in my view, is the direction of conversation. Marketing is a one-way conversation only. They don't listen. They don't get feedback. They certainly don't on a one-to-one exchange. Whereas sales, that's all they can do, is have that two-way exchange. So it's one thing to have marketing broadcast a message, even broadcast it to the individual. There's never anything reciprocal.
Well, I think
once you become reciprocal, you're not marketing anymore. You're sales.
Yeah, I think.
Well, you're human.
Yeah, well, that too.
But no. I mean, but I'm trying to add a light-hearted whole thing about this, and it's brilliant that we're in the North American episode and we have a Britton. I love that. If we can find more of those, but let's be let's be kind of semi-quick. Every decision we make as human beings is based on emotion. It doesn't stop when you walk through your company headquarters or your corporate, and then you justify it or try and justify it with fact. And that's not going to disappear with technology.
That's right.
Because if you then look at, we've all talked about it, and I know Tim's not on it because he's that, but we talk about this. And I've followed Matt for a long, long time, and I think he's a guest on the Northern American episode pretty soon.
Yeah.
And this is not a jolt, but it's like the data as an academic that they have gone and looked at is off the chart. There is no academic ever that has been able to gather the data points that the jolt effect Matt and Ted did. And I think they proved the model by listening to, with technology, 8,300 calls, and they then proved out the model with 2.3 million. And we're in a world where we fear fucking up. I'd put the fucking up in there to kind of going to Americanize it and kind of who knows where Andy's going to go. But that's the point, isn't it? We all fear failure, and therefore in this world we don't make decisions anymore, and that's the problem. It doesn't matter about marketing or selling. We just are crippled by and even as sellers we do it. Let's be honest, as salespeople buying anything, we just go, "Oh, is that a good decision? Is that a bad decision? Is there any more data points?" If I have to go and justify this to my wife, which I have to do on a lot of buying decisions, why? I mean, I know Alex has to justify a lot to his wife, like why she should mow the lawn.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. That was the previous episode, by the way. Yeah, and even Matt and Ted talk about the importance of salespeople developing one's personal brand. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that is going to be the differentiator in the future, if it isn't already today, is a salesperson's ability to share, their values and beliefs, and that being the thing that differentiates them, as opposed to the sales message that they've tailored to the nth degree, because everyone's doing that now.
Yeah, I mean, go back to your first sales job, wasn't it? And love that you're actually Jacqueline is just Jackie. Sorry, I don't know you informally enough maybe to call you Jackie, but there you go. Yeah. And what I want to know, Jackie, if you could put it in there, did he buy the freaking lawnmower? Yeah.
Yeah, you can answer that, Jackie.
I want to bring up Connor's comment because I don't hear this enough at home. Rob has it, as in Rob is right. Marketing's a monologue and sales is a dialogue. Sales is more focused, but marketing has to be broad to reach marketing has to be a broad reach to gain attention. It's in their name. Marketing is speaking to the market. Yeah. Bob, we've uncovered a lot of different problems here. What are a few things that sales organizations can implement right now to start addressing some of the issues they're having when it comes to hitting their revenue goals?
Over to you, Bob. No pressure.
I would say, first of all, the age-old problem of bridging that gap between sales and marketing, that's not going away anytime soon. We have to bridge that first.
It's not getting solved anytime soon either, is it, Bob?
Probably not, except now what's really interesting, what's happening in the marketing shift is that now they are a source of revenue. They are now on the hook to bring in X dollars into a company in a lot of organizations. It used to be just sales. All thing would funnel through sales. Now, an awful lot of stuff is funneling through marketing. So marketing now understands some of the pain, some of the pressure that sales is under. So there's actually some union there, misery loves company. So I think that actually might help a little bit in terms of, bridging that gap a little bit. So that's one thing. The other thing is to make sure that when marketing develops a storyline or a message that needs to go in, they need to be working with sales to understand what types of emotions need to be built into it, because they don't do emotion well. Marketing doesn't. Okay. So what they need to do is they need to understand when they hand a message off to the client and the seller comes along, they need to pick up that ball that marketing just laid down and carry that emotion forward. But the emotion has to be there in the first place, right? So that's one of the things that needs to happen there. Something else that we can do is take a look at selling by teams rather than as individuals. And the reason I mention this is because when it comes to complex sales, the number of decision makers in those chains has grown from what is it when we used to, all of us start selling, like 3 or 4 people will probably make a decision. Nowadays, it's up to 10, 11, 12, 13, who knows what, as far as the people. What is the probability of that one seller being able to resonate with each person in that decision-making chain?
Yeah.
The days of the Renaissance seller are gone, guys.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. And to your point earlier, Andy, about developing personal brand, almost pairing them off. So if you've got like a salesperson, you might have a business development person, a pre-sales person, services, product, you name it. They're all developing their personal brands and looking for the relevant stakeholders on the buyer's side to build relationships with.
Yeah, I did some work with a global company recently, and it was all about customer centricity. But I then did some work with a office supplies organization, and so let me connect it to the office supplies organization. Their senior management team was like, well, what makes your salesperson different from your competitors? Because you've both got a corporate brand, and your marketing, to your point, Bob, your marketing people are out there creating all kinds of wonderful widgets and God knows what to create your corporate brand. Mm-hmm. But when the salespeople, because all the salespeople from those different competitors will get in front of Rob, the customer, what enhances that corporate brand? And surely it's the brand of the individual that does that. And that's back to the sales enablement piece, which is, that's not about their product knowledge. That's not about their pricing knowledge. That's not about their platforms and company processes. That's about them. How did they? Simon said, it's like, how did they show up as the consummate professional who cares about them, understands their pain points, goes on and does all of those other things? And so that's that first point, which is we don't understand that salespeople's brand needs to be developed. And therefore, how did they develop the corporate brand and move it forward? And when we then, to your point, Alex, kind of delve into all the other aspects, it's about professionalism. And what we don't seem to think as a world of sales leaders and corporations, that buyers have completely and utterly changed. They're not the buyers that we grew up with 30 odd years ago. They're looking for all the consumerism points that come along. They're looking for all the traits of trust. They're looking for stuff, and we've missed it. We've missed the diversity and inclusivity piece, where 40 to 50% of buyers are female and young. And we're still dealing with, and it comes back to right at the start, a CEO and the board are going, well, let's just crank it harder. That's what we've done for the last 40 years. It's like, you do that for the next 10, you'll be out of business.
So Andy, I'm really glad you brought up the term customer centricity. Here's a test everyone can do. You ask what we can do right now. Here's a test that you can do right now. Gather your sales people together, put them into teams, however you want to do it, and sit them down and say, I want you to list out your top 5 clients. Make a big deal of it. Say that, I want to know what the product is, what the ARR is, what the TCV is, rank them, as to where they are. And I want to know who your top 5 clients are. Have them read that list back to you after you've given them 5 minutes to think about it.
They won't do it.
I will almost guarantee that what you're going to hear is Johnson & Johnson, BAE, Boeing. It's like, okay, time out, guys, time out. Who's your client? A light bulb may go off, and then they'll say, oh, well, it's the VP of this, it's the CEO of that. Time out. Who's the client? Who's the person on the other side that you're actually talking to? A company doesn't sign. A persona doesn't sign. A person signs. Your client is a person. And when you start talking about deals with people instead of as some amorphous company or persona, the whole thing shifts. The whole culture shifts. The whole attention to what they're paying attention to shifts. That is something that you can do immediately, but you have to carry that through. Frontline sales leaders do it with their sellers, and then the frontline sales leaders do it with their CRO. The CRO does it with the C-suite, and before you know it, you have an entire organization that's starting to talk about not Boeing, but Steve Wynn over in Boeing. Okay, so that is how you start to drive that shift. But until you start to do that, it's never going to happen, because it still is always at the head, up in the C-suite, about numbers, not about people.
That I have to say, Bob, and I mean this sincerely, is a seismic shift in the conversation, and I completely and utterly support that. Yeah, and so does Conrad Slater, by the way. But that's exactly right. But then doesn't this come back to didn't we talk about it's humanity? Actually, someone's got to go in there and go, yeah, it's not Boeing, it's that person, that person, that person, and that person. And how do we map our skills and our relationships onto those people? Yep. And in a world where
it's hard for one person to do that, which is why we need the team approach. So, because everybody has a different personality. But you know what happens, Andy, is that nobody or I shouldn't say nobody, very few people take the time to really figure out who it is that they actually have at their disposal as far as the team is concerned. They don't assess their people to find out what their competencies are. They don't do any kind of a test to say, okay, this person is, let's do DISC 3. This person is a C. They're going to probably resonate best with another C. This person is an S, probably going to resonate best with another S. So how do we figure that out? How do we match up person with person at the emotional level? Until they start giving that credence to it, it's not going to change.
Yeah. So I think that could be a good challenge for this week, Andy. If we ask the community, do you know? Have you thought about your top 5 clients from an individual perspective, not a brand perspective? Last week we had a challenge, which was when we had Tek Lubiertz on. How many contacts are you connected to on LinkedIn in each of your target accounts? So we were thinking along the lines of what you're describing there, Bob, and we used the term multi-threading. I don't know if that's a term you would also use, or for some reason you don't. But I think what you were describing is multi-threading, if I understand the definition of multi-threading.
From a computing standpoint, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, we asked the audience how many contacts are you connected to on LinkedIn in each of your target accounts, and so 33% said less than 5. 0% said between 5 and 15, and interestingly, 67% said more than 15. I'm connected to more than 15 stakeholders within my target accounts. Now, I don't think we had enough votes in order to have a good base of analysis, but interesting nonetheless. But if you guys are happy, I'm happy to create that poll to ask the audience following this call.
Yeah, I'd like Bob's input on that, because I think there's a bit to pause just back, because I think there's some stuff there which we need to unpack and potentially jump on another call to not give IP away, because Bob's got a living in the company, but to just unpack that a little bit more and around that customer centricity and test people's view. Then we can get it out to the universities and the various companies in the US and invite Bob back to look at that with someone like an Adam Rapp.
Andy, that's a great segue. Bob, let me ask you this. You have a book coming out soon, correct?
Hopefully I can get it out there, yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that, and maybe we can bring you back to help promote that and explore this topic a little bit more.
Sure. So the premise of the book is that while an awful lot has changed in sales, the basics have not, and they never will. It's called, the title of the book is called The Third Oldest Profession. And what it is the fact that while we may consume information differently, while technology is taking off at lightning speed, the fact of the matter is we still cognate and we still think and process information the same way as Julius Caesar did when he was walking the forum. Okay. People have not changed. We evolve incredibly slow as compared to technologies. And what it takes in order for us to sell is to understand that we have been our own worst enemy in terms of pulling ourselves away from that human element and really understanding what a person is looking for when they're trying to buy something. So what I do is I unpack it. I take a look at a very brief history of how we kind of got to where we are today. And then I give some hints and tips as to what we can do to start to get there. And one of them happens to be what I just mentioned.
Are you married, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, that's not an option then, because I was
Where were you going with that?
Well, I've resisted on the fact that Alex looked like he could be the next president of the Spanish FA based on his personas and everyone else, and the fact that he's out. But actually, on a serious note to end, because I know I'm going to get shut. But that's it. You are spot on. Technology's evolved the speed, but the actual core is about two human beings and then other human beings connecting and agreeing it's right. And I couldn't applaud that end more. Thank you so much for that. And we should take a little bit of time if you can to kind of put some data research out there, ask some questions, and when that comes out, I think we do need to kind of really amplify that, because if we don't, we're all going to be in the technology trap and the stress trap and everything else that brings out, and we're going to keep going around the destiny down into just to hell. And we need to bring this whole thing back up to, it's a great profession, drives the global economy, drives national economies and GDPs, and drives lots of good things.
Another great conversation. Bob, thank you so much. To those in the audience that participated, thank you. You can continue this conversation in the Sales TV group on our LinkedIn group page. And Bob, as I said, the door is always open. We would love to have you back to explore that idea a little bit further, especially as you're getting close to launching a book, or even absent launching the book. Anytime you're looking to just come on and share your thoughts, thank you. You are most definitely welcome anytime.
I appreciate the platform, guys. Thank you very much.
On behalf of myself, Andy, Alex, our audience, Bob, this has been another edition of SalesTV Live, the North American edition. I want to thank you, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.